And now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, this is a very simple amendment. Since there are only two privatized systems in the world, if you don't count the Emirates, where the same people own the airline, own the airport, run the aviation system, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really count. But the other two, who are more equivalent in terms of their systems and standards, are Great Britain and Canada. And in both cases, when it was privatized, the private entity, for-profit in Great Britain and not-for-profit in Canada, were required to pay for the value of the asset. In this case, we are going to gift the asset to the private corporation, and the day after they can do with it as they will. Now, the chairman will say, oh, they're running systems with vacuum tubes. Well, thank God we'll move beyond that. But still, yeah, a lot of the equipment's outmoded. It's depreciated. There's a hell of a lot of real estate that is incredibly valuable. We are talking many billions, if not tens of billions of dollars, on top of the fact that the taxpayers of the United States, those who pay the fees for the current system, primarily passengers, have spent $50 billion on the system in the last 20 years. But we're going to gift it to the corporation. They say, well, if you don't gift it to the corporation, then people are going to have to pay for it again. Well, yeah, except, the presidents are, and we're relying very heavily on the president of Canada, they paid for it, and they financed it. Okay. And then the other issue is, as I pointed out, and Mr. Poole and I engaged in dialogue yesterday, this is bigger than too big to fail. We could have done without Goldman Sachs or any of those people. I voted against TARP, and we'd be better off for it today, but whatever. But we can't do without an air traffic system in the United States of America for 1 second. Our new, computer systems are designed for less than 1 second of downtime a year. So we can't do without it for 1 second out of a year. We've talked about the problems of going to a private corporation, all the transition issues and all that. We do have the fact that NAV Canada had to substantially raise rates. The system in Great Britain had to be bailed out. I pointed out yesterday that if the system gets into trouble, what will they do? And Mr. Poole said, well, they will raise fees on the users, including potentially passengers. It could be you pay $5 a ticket to fly. That's the cost of bailing out the system and keeping the system running. Mr. Poole is very sanguine about it. And he said if there's savings, we don't know that they'll be passed on to consumers either. Again, it's this is not looking too great. But then when we get to the point of, well, what if, since we have the Rube Goldberg, they get in a panic and they say, God, we got to charge every passenger $5 to fly because we got to get bailed out here. And the secretary, appointed by Bernie Sanders says, hell no, you're not going to charge the passengers $5 to fly. And so suddenly, on the 45th day he says that, then the corporation goes to court. Now we're in court. Corporation's insolvent. The government wants to take it back. If we try and take it back, we gifted it to them. It's now a taking because it's a corporation. We have to buy it back at whatever value is assessed in whatever way. So my amendment's very simple. It says we will assess the fair market value of the system. That cost will go to the private corporation, and they can take out a 30-year mortgage or 50-year mortgage or whatever they want to pay that value to the taxpayers. And then that $10 or $20 billion would come to the Congress to determine how it should be best expended, to pay down debt, to deal with an annual deficit, or other things that we could do with that money. I think this is a fiscally prudent amendment, and it would be unprecedented in the history of the world, even beyond the Russian oligarchs, for a government to gift government-owned assets owned by all of the citizens of that country to a private corporation. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
I disagree with the gentleman. First of all, the users paid for this system, and having this entity, this new entity, take it over, independent entity, would mean that the users would have to pay again for it. And I've heard the gentleman argue many times on the highway system, if we If we put tolls up, then we're making users pay for what they already paid for. Similar to the case. The users have paid for this. What's fair market value? There's no market for this. So I don't know how we get there. And second, if this company were, or this entity were to go defunct, there's no entity left there. It's not owned. There's no owners. It's no stock owners, so it would revert back to the government if that's the case. I don't see all this doom and gloom. I see positive by doing this. Again, it will be a double paying for the folks that pay taxes. I'm sure Bernie Sanders wouldn't say they wouldn't do it. He would try to convert it to take it over and increase taxes on it. So again, I don't think there's any reason to create this non-profit corporation, be saddled with a significant debt on day one when, again, it's already been paid by the users. So with that, does anybody seek to speak in opposition to the amendment? Seeing none, are there any amendments to the amendment? Seeing none, now ask all those in favor of Mr. DeFazio's amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no? No?
You got it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman.
Recorded vote.
I thought you were going to surprise me.